What's up, everyone? It's Lan here with another episode of the Cheeseheadz Weekly Podcast. Over here for, I believe, episode 63, maybe 64. I'm losing count as it happens. I should probably just stop saying the episode at the beginning of each show because I normally get it wrong anyway. But it is good to be with you here again today. We're doing the second half of our draft preview that I started 2 episodes ago, deviated a little bit last episode. We're back at it on this one, and I'm going to go over my last 3 top 5 position needs for the Packers. I did kind of cheat a little bit and sort of combine some of them, but we're going over cornerbacks, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and I kind of included pass rushers, edge rushers, outside linebackers, defensive ends, whatever. Included it all in the defensive line here for the Packers. And we'll go over some of that here in a little bit. But before we get into that, if you want to support the show, which I hope you want to support the show, you can check out the Q&As and polls that we have every episode on Spotify. Nothing happened on those on last episode for some reason. Normally people don't participate in those a ton, but it would be awesome if you did. Also, there's a link in the description of every episode to send in a voice message. You could send in a question or anything, especially with draft coming up. Send in those draft questions. I will try to answer them as best as I can. And of course, you can comment on YouTube, on my website, greatcove.net/cheeseheadz, or anywhere else, on X. You can contact me, lots of different places. The show is available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, some of the big ones. Basically everywhere you get your podcasts, not including Amazon Music. Not sure who listens to podcasts on Amazon Music anyway, but you never know. New episodes come out every Tuesday. The show is available on YouTube in video form, and you can check us out there. Be sure to subscribe and leave a like. Like I said, you can leave a comment there as well. And yeah, it's a great time. You can hit the bell icon on Spotify or on YouTube to be notified when a new episode comes out. Also, be sure to tell your friends about the show. You can also rate the show on Spotify and rate and review on Apple Podcasts. That is very helpful to help grow the show, get it out to more people, and help me to continue to improve the show and continue getting out amazing content to you every single week. Again, you can check out the website. I mentioned it earlier, greatcove.net/cheeseheadz, Linktree. I also have one of those, and that is posted on social media every week, and you can check out how to listen to my podcast and where all to find it. And follow me basically everywhere on social media, X at Cheeseheadz_W. I'm probably the most active there, and also on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I have a Facebook page as well at Cheeseheadz_weekly for all of those. Alrighty, without further ado, let us get into it here with our preview. We're going to start with the corners. Now, last week I went over safeties and I went over linebackers. So I did not talk about Cooper DeJean in the last one. A lot of people would consider him a safety, and upon further look for me, I probably consider him a safety as well. I'll talk about him a little bit here, and I also want to talk about Graham Barton, 2 of probably the most mocked players to the Packers based on a few things, and we'll look at those few things. First of all, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but the Packers do have a specific type, and probably more specific than the thresholds I'm going to set. But in general, in the first round, they want young players. Now, again, they do deviate from this. There are outliers. Devontae Wyatt is one of them. He was 24 when he was drafted. But in general, almost always, they like young players. They like guys with an 8.00 RAS or more. And this, they have not deviated from much at all. They like the high-profile athletes, and that is probably one of their biggest, thresholds when you're talking about day 1, day 2 picks for the Packers. So you're not going to see any of those guys, at least even on day 2, you're not going to see a guy below 5 RAS, probably not a guy below 8 in the first round, because the Packers just have not done that. And obviously they might not go specifically off RAS scores, but if you look at the RAS scores from their past first-round picks, there are not many that are, or probably not, if any. I have not looked specifically, but not many or any, if any, that have been below an 8.00 RAS. Now, let's just look over all of Brian Gutekunst's first-round picks here real quick and look at their RAS scores. Jair Alexander in 2018, his first draft as a Packers GM. Jair Alexander, 9.54 RAS score. Rashawn Gary, 9.95 RAS score. Man, he's a freak athlete. Darnell Savage, 8.35 RAS score. Jordan Love, the RAS was 8.46, and that's actually pretty good for a quarterback. You don't see quarterbacks with that good of a RAS very often, just because, well, quarterbacks don't even test that often. Eric Stokes, 9.38 RAS score. Quay Walker, 9.63 RAS. Devontae Wyatt, 9.54 RAS. Lucas Van Ness, 9.39 RAS. Wow. So that tells you right there. And all of these guys were all of them were 21 except for 2. Eric Stokes and Devontae Wyatt. Eric Stokes was 22. Devontae Wyatt was 24. So you see how the young age works as well. Now, another threshold for the Packers is they like the premium positions. And their premium positions qualify as quarterback, offensive line, edge, or pass rushers, cornerback, and potentially wide receiver. I don't think the Packers really would say wide receiver is a premium position. They would maybe consider interior defensive line as a premium position over wide receiver. Those two are iffy, but they have not picked a wide receiver in the first round for a while, and they have picked a defensive lineman. So if we just look at Goody's past first-round picks here, Jair Alexander, cornerback. That is a premium position. Rashawn Gary, edge, premium position. Darnell Savage, safety, not a premium position. There's one outlier. Jordan Love, quarterback, premium position. Eric Stokes, cornerback, premium position. Quay Walker, linebacker, not a premium position. Devontae Wyatt, defensive line, interior defensive line. We're going to call that a premium position just because Devontae Wyatt was drafted to be more of a pass rusher and always has been more of a pass rusher, not great in run defense anyway. And pass rusher is a premium position for the Packers. Lucas Van Ness, edge, premium position. So really only 2 complete outliers you could argue either way with Devontae Wyatt. But Quay Walker, Darnell Savage, safety and linebacker, are the only 2 out of, 8 first-round picks by Brian Gutekunst. So they like the premium positions as well. So that is about it. They do like the Power 5 school, and I believe all of these first-rounders have come from a Power 5 school. I won't go into it all. They like their Georgia guys. Georgia's been the most. And Jair Alexander was Louisville. That's possibly the smallest school that they... Oh, Jordan Love, actually, is the only outlier here. Utah State. That is not a Power 5 school. If I know anything, which I don't about college, but I think I remember hearing that it is not a Power 5 school. All right. So we will get into some of my some of my rankings here, but I tried to take that into account a little bit when making my rankings and left out some of the not so great athletes, guys that I think would not fit as much as far as Packers types in the first round. And again, a lot of these guys I'll be discussing are probably first round picks in the Packers range or early day 2. So, well, there is a few here that could be possible later day 2 picks, but I don't think any of these would fall till day 3. So we're going to talk about Cooper DeJean here first. He has a 9.85 RAS score. Good athleticism, that's good. His age, I actually didn't look at his age specifically, but I do know that he is, or I'm almost certain that he's young, so I think he checks that box as well. Power 5 school, yes, he checks that box as well. He's from Iowa. Premium position, that is where it gets a little bit dicey, and I will talk about this a little bit. His main weakness, if you listen to scouting reports or watch the film, which I've not done, but I've listened to plenty of scouting reports. Specifically, Andy Herman had a very detailed discussion about Cooper DeJean and went over this in great detail on the Pack a Day podcast. Be sure to check that out. Again, I talk nonstop about them, but they produce amazing content, and you better check them out. But it seems like his main issue is he has, at times, tight hips. And that especially shows itself when he's in man coverage, press man coverage, and whenever he has to run with a guy, quickly switch direction. Wide receivers can pretty easily beat him, with a double move because he's not able to change direction very quickly, and that's specifically as a corner. Now, as far as zone defense, he dominated because he can read the quarterback's eyes, make plays on the ball, very much a ball hawk, and great ball production as a defensive back, mainly as a cornerback, outside cornerback. But he did play a little bit in the box and a little bit in the slot. It looks like he has a very nice size for a corner, and when you're a bigger corner like he is, it does make sense that you're going to have a little bit more issue with change of direction. And he did host a pro day coming off of injury, 4 teams to come out and scout him. He did not post agility testing, so this RAS score is incomplete. No agility testing for Cooper DeJean, and not really going to judge him a ton there because not many players do the agility testing anymore, to be honest, especially not the top guys. But again, great size, but it looks to me, or sounds to me, maybe I should say, that he profiles best as a slot corner or a safety at the next level. He did not play free safety at all at Iowa, but it looks like he could possibly play that position. Maybe actually profiles best there. Of course, it's strictly a projection. He looked pretty good in the box, can tackle well, and has good size again to be able to do that. Would be a little bit smaller perhaps, but you could see him there. Probably best as a safety or a slot corner at the next level, and that is not a premium position. Now, could he play corner? Absolutely. It's certainly possible that he could come into the NFL and be a great corner in the NFL, but doesn't look like his best position. So just to pump the brakes a little bit on the hype, I think why Packers fans like him so much and why he is one of the most mocked players in mock drafts to the Packers is just because of that versatility. Can do a lot of different things. Great size, great athleticism, and just one of those top guys that look like a Packer, certainly on the outside. So all these things I just said, I kind of just put cold water over all the hype around Cooper DeJean to the Packers, but I'm not saying that the Packers aren't going to pick him, and I mean, it actually at this point looks like he might not even make it to the Packers at all. So If he does make it to the Packers, will they draft him? That is not a certainty, I don't think, at this point. I don't think if he falls to the Packers at 25 that he will be picked there. And I certainly, from everything I've heard, I don't think the Packers will be trading up to him. They could pick him at 25. They could trade down. They could pick someone else at 25. I think anything is in the cards. I don't think Cooper DeJean is quite the perfect fit that the Packers would be trading up for him. But you never know. Anything can happen. I could be wrong on that. So let's talk about Graham Barton here real quick. I really should bring up his RAS score. Let me just do that here real quickly. Graham Barton, RAS score. And he is a very athletic prospect, which is why I want to bring this up. He posted a 9.99 RAS. Now this is incomplete, and I thought maybe there was another one. Let me just do a quick search here where that was more complete, and he doesn't test quite as great with the whole thing. So far this is actually all I'm seeing. So Graham Barton, my goodness. And if you run the RAS score for Graham Barton as a center, he is actually a 10.0, perfect 10 RAS score. Wow. And if you project him as a guard, he is a 9.99 RAS, with the weight being what knocks that down just a little bit. But overall, pretty good size. Played a lot of tackle at Duke. In fact, most of his time was spent at left tackle, I believe. But ran very well. The speed is great. The agility is great. Did not test. Again, this is incomplete because he did not test in the vertical jump or the broad jump. But Graham Barton, high-level athlete. He's young. Plays a premium position on the offensive line. Now, Packers have not drafted an offensive lineman in the first round for a few years, but certainly could happen. But the thing is, again, as far as premium position goes, I guess I didn't mention this earlier. Premium position for the Packers would probably be more at tackle, and for most teams that tends to be the premium position is at left tackle, basically just left tackle. And so you don't see a ton of interior guys go in the first round. In fact, I'm not sure when the last time the Packers picked an interior offensive lineman in the first round. Normally, if they do, it is only a left tackle. But again, I have not researched that. But so you could argue either way, I guess, on the premium position one, actually. He is from a Power 5 school, somewhat smaller one. But yes, in the Power 5. And yeah, the athleticism, young age, everything checks all the boxes there. Very versatile player, which is kind of what endears him to Packers fans again, but likely not a tackle, and that limits him. He looks like he could be very good as a center or interior guy, but slightly short arms, doesn't profile. He projects in the NFL to be more of an inside guy, and the Packers do like to take offensive linemen and have shown willingness to on day 2 and day 3 in recent years to take offensive linemen who played a lot of tackle in college and move them inside. Sean Ryan would be an example of that. Zach Tom could have been an example of that, I guess. I think some people, to begin with, thought Tom could be moved inside. He actually ended up staying outside and has been playing right tackle, but he could be moved inside here eventually. There's been some talk that he could be moved to center, which I feel like actually did play center in college. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. This is bad audio, bad in general. I'm just speaking out both sides of my mouth. Don't even know what I'm talking about here. Sean Ryan is an example of this. I know that much. But Graham Barton, likely not a tackle in the NFL. So, again, this does not look like the perfect fit that we've seen before. And also, Packers just in general, even in the offensive tackle department, have not drafted offensive linemen early because they've shown the ability to be able to draft and develop on day 2 and day 3 of the draft. And they draft a lot of offensive linemen in that range. So again, Graham Barton does not look like the perfect fit that Packers fans think he is. I certainly get it. I just don't think the Packers will trade up for him either, just because of the premium position concerns, the fact that he's probably not a tackle. And I don't think they're going to want to trade up for a guy who is not a tackle, at least not in the NFL. And he could be. It could work out that way. You never know what can happen again. I said the same thing about DeJean. You never know what's going to happen in the NFL, but the way it looks, he did not profile as a tackle in the NFL, and so the Packers could still take him at 25. I just don't see them trading up for him, and just doesn't look like quite the perfect fit either. So I'll be honest, last year I did not say so on the air. Like I did not actually say in an episode my prediction for the Packers in the first round. I'd like to give one of those here before the draft. Last year, just I texted a couple friends, Robin and Troy, I think. Just that I actually predicted that the Packers would pick Lucas Van Ness because he looked like the perfect Packers fit. Edge rusher, premium position, young, highly athletic, just looked like a really, really good fit for the Packers, and the Packers ended up taking him at 15, even with JSN on the board, who a lot of Packers fans wanted the Packers to draft. So again, I have not identified a perfect fit. I identified a few perfect fits, perhaps, that would go likely ahead of where the Packers end up, and we'll talk about some that could work out that I have not looked into as much. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Graham Barton and Cooper DeJean. So we'll get into my top 5 rankings of cornerbacks to start things off. Now I will see if I can find. Looks like I don't have them brought up here. So cornerback rankings. But we'll get to those here in a minute. Number 1 on my list, though, is DeJean Arnold out of Alabama. He, on PFF, he is ranked, Cooper DeJean is listed as a corner here and is ranked number 1. For some reason, I would not rank him number 1. Wow. Yeah, it's, I'm not sure when this was out. Maybe this was earlier on, but Cooper DeJean is ranked at 1, Mitchell 2, Wiggins 3, and DeJean Arnold 4. I have him as 1, and I think a lot of people have him as 1 in this cornerback class. Very good athlete, and looks like a top guy. Probably won't even make it to the Packers, but I did put him on this list in case, because there is a possibility that he could fall. Number 2, Quinyon Mitchell. At the beginning of the process, it looked like he was mocked to the Packers a fair amount. Now it looks like he has pretty much tested his way. Had a great Senior Bowl, had a great combine, great athlete. Looks like a fantastic cornerback, and likely is also out of the Packers' range. Number 3, Kool-Aid McKinstry, probably the most mocked corner to the Packers, other than Cooper DeJean, if you want him to be a corner. I have not scouted these guys a lot, but could be a fit for the Packers. You never know. He's ranked number 5 right after Arnold, and he's perhaps not the most elite athlete, and he is coming off a Jones fracture in his foot, I believe. Noticed that injury. I think he tested in the combine through that fracture without even knowing about it, and figured out afterwards that his foot was fractured. So he is recovering from that, but can play in any scheme and is a very smart corner. So that all checks out. I think he did, in his 40-yard dash, it did seem a little slow, but if you factor in the fact that he did have a fracture in his foot, that makes things seem a little bit better. I'll see if there is a RAS score out for him here just real quickly. Kool-Aid McKinstry. Yeah, there is one out here. I'm not sure if this is from his pro day or from the combine. 40-yard dash, a little bit slow. 10-yard split's really good. 20-yard split is bad, and 40-yard dash, middle of the pack. So 4.47, that's not bad, especially when you're running on a broken foot. The explosives were not great. Vertical 34.5, broad jump about 10 foot, right on 10 feet. Size pretty good, especially the weight, a little on the short end, not very much. Yeah, but again, not a great athlete. 7.55, a little bit less than what the Packers are looking for. But again, if he was testing injured, that might influence how the Packers see him, and they did meet with him as well at his pro day, and I think they brought him in for a top 30 visit as well. But number 4 on the list, we'll go TJ Tampa. Likely he's number 6 here on PFF. He's likely a day 2 pick. But yeah, has some potential to be a starting outside corner in the NFL. Likely a top 75 pick. Footwork is some things that he could clean up on, perhaps. Oops, I just closed my my rankings here. Number 5 on the list is Max Melton. From what I've heard, he profiles possibly a little bit better as a slot corner than an outside corner, but played a lot of outside corner and certainly could stick there. Likely a day 2 pick from where I've seen him in the mock draft sims now. Not that tells the whole story by any means, but likely you'll find him there, and has been mocked to the Packers a pretty good bit because he is Bo Melton's little brother, and it would be a lot of fun to have him with the Packers. But good athlete. He's definitely risen throughout the draft process as well. Ran a very, very fast 40-yard dash. Into the offensive lineman. I probably should not attempt this guy's name, but Penn State offensive tackle Alomayiwa Fashanu. Fashanu is the last name, I do know that much. And he is a top-tier offensive tackle. Ranked number 4 at PFF. Ranked very near the top. I also like to look at Bucky Brooks. Top 5 rankings, he's ranked number 3 there, behind Joe Alt and Talise Fuaga, who seem to be the locked-in top 2 guys. Fashanu in mock drafts has fallen to the Packers a few times, likely will not in the real NFL draft. If he did, Packers definitely could consider taking him, but likely not in play for the Packers. Number 2 on the list, and this is just all offensive linemen, is Troy Fautanu out of Washington, offensive tackle. He is ranked number 3, actually ahead of Fashanu on PFF. Ranked number 4, right? Or no, sorry, he's ranked like number 6 on Bucky Brooks, or is kind of like the honorable mention guy to watch, whatever, that Brooks puts after his top 5. Good athlete and moves well. But again, could end up actually as a center or a guard in the NFL. So not sure the Packers will pick him either. And we already talked about Graham Barton, who's number 3. Then we have Jackson Powers Johnson, who is a center or interior offensive lineman, and probably likely a center in the NFL. Very good player. A lot of Packers scouts or Packers guys seem to like him, and I would put myself in that boat as well from what I've heard. And he is actually ranked on PFF. They have Graham Barton as a tackle, and that puts Jackson Powers Johnson at the top of the interior offensive lineman. If we can just look, number 5 on my list, Cooper Beebe. I'm not really. Oh wow, he's all the way down at number 7. I've just heard has a really good high IQ. Apparently he's not the greatest athlete, but he's been talked about to the Packers. Apparently he's a pretty good Packers fit, although if he's not athletic, who knows. But a lot of Packers people seem to like him as well as a fit with the Packers. On to the defensive linemen. We'll start with number 1, edge rusher Chop Robinson out of Penn State. A little on the small side, and that's why I think the Packers probably won't draft him, especially after we just heard from Brian Gutekunst that they don't want to get small at the edge rusher position, which likely means they probably won't be taking a guy like Chop Robinson. But pretty talented guy, and it's probably pretty likely that he won't even make it to the Packers, actually. So there you have that. Let me see, number 2 on my list. I'm talking all defensive linemen here. I have Jerzon Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois, I believe. And yeah, he's probably the best interior defensive lineman. PFF has him as 2. A lot of people have him as 1. He has a pretty good size, which makes a difference as far as his flexibility and just athleticism, I guess, agility. But good as a pass rusher and should be good as pretty good as a run blocker too, which hopefully means hopefully is a good thing for the Packers, but could go ahead of the Packers certainly. But I think he's very much in play for the Packers. I think maybe a little bit older. I'm not sure of his age here. I'll just look that up here real quick. But I think he would definitely be a pretty good pick for the Packers if they could get him. And actually, no, he is 21, so I was wrong about that. So he's young, too. Again, you can argue about the premium position. He does play interior defensive line, but I don't think that would... I think the Packers, if the Packers really like him, they would take him. Number 3, I have Braylon Trice, an edge rusher out of Washington, I believe. He's number 5 on the list. I've seen him marked to the Packers a little bit. I thought about putting some other pass rushers on here like Jared Verse or Laiatu Latu, who have fallen to the Packers a few times. Likely will not happen in the NFL draft. They're way too good. And real NFL teams, I don't think are going to let that happen. So I did not put them on the list. Just, it gives me more room for other guys. Trice, probably a day 2 pick. But, yeah. Not sure. He's... his size is a little bit unique, I think. I don't remember. I'm not sure it's fantastic for what the Packers are looking for. Maybe I should just look that up. He's 23, so he's a little bit older. That makes a difference. If I can look at his, okay, he does actually have pretty good size, a little taller, and okay. I must have been looking at something wrong, or else their school really reported the size wrong, because he is only 245, which I think is about Chop Robinson range, slightly on the smaller side, but who knows, on day 2, Packers might not care quite as much about that. And number 4 on the list, Chris Braswell, edge rusher out of Alabama, ranked a long way down. Is he not even on here? Not even on PFF's top. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong list here. If I can just pull up the right list, that would help me out a little bit. He's ranked, he's up pretty high, actually, number 4 on PFF's top 10 edge rushers. He has good power, speed, and length. Not really a technician, but pretty good athlete, it sounds like, and can do, possibly develop into a starter. He seems to be more of a late round 1, early day 2, round 2-ish type guy, but who knows? Again, in the NFL draft, anything can happen. Not real sure where he would go, and I'll just look up his size here real quick as well. He is 6'3", 251, so slightly bigger, an inch shorter, but about 6 pounds bigger than Braylon Trice, so he probably would be in about the Packers' range. BMI would definitely be higher. And Chris Jenkins, who I've heard a lot about from Ross Uglum specifically, and seems to be a pretty good run defender, has pass rush upside as well, and just a few pounds below 300, slightly on the small side for what the Packers want, especially since they have Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks, who are a little bit undersized as defensive linemen, but who knows? And again, I talked about the Packers do have depth at D-line. They kind of need the high-level talent, and I'm not sure who they're going to want to take off their 53-man roster, if they're going to want to put a guy in ahead of, a Colby Wooden. I don't think Carl Brooks is getting displaced anytime soon, so you never know what will happen there, and I'm just not really sure what would happen if they drafted a defensive lineman up high. I think they need more high-end talent to pair with Kenny Clark, and TJ Slayton, I believe, is entering a contract year. I expect him to probably be around the Packers again, but you never know, and he's not mainly in there only for run defense. That would be great if you could have, 2 Kenny Clarks, so then we'd be all set. Not very likely to happen. There's not very many Kenny Clarks out there. In fact, I only know of one, but you never know. You can always try, I guess. That's about going to do it for me today. Sorry about the ramble. I don't know a ton about these prospects. I don't want to have to take the time to learn everything about them. I have a few opinions, just who I would draft above the other if I'm, going through a mock draft on a mock draft simulator. But actually, I've not done a ton of mock draft sim projections this year. Not done much of that at all. I'll probably do a little bit more of that and possibly give you another mock draft on the show. We have one more episode, I think. Yeah, we do have one more episode before the draft, so I'll see what we do there. Maybe a mock draft. I want to give my first round prediction, so hopefully I can learn a little bit more about these guys and see if there's see if I can identify any perfect fits. Not sure there's any perfect fits like Lucas Van Ness type from last year, but I guess we could see what happens. I mean, whenever you get down You're picking late first round. You're not always going to have those perfect fits. So they might have to go, outside some of their, thresholds to get a guy that they like. All right, that will about do it for me today. But be sure to check out the podcast everywhere you get your podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube, and you can check out my website. Follow me on social media at Cheeseheadz_W on X, at Cheeseheadz_weekly anywhere else. And that is it. Only a week and a half until the NFL draft. So it should be fun. Things are ramping up for that. And should be fun to be able to react to the draft. I'm really excited, especially for Dynasty Fantasy Football purposes as well. And so it should be a lot of fun just to get there because, everyone's getting a little bit prospect fatigue at this point, hearing about everyone. So it's pretty much just about time to get on with the draft. But hey, Packers are back in Packers facilities to start the voluntary offseason program. Just very, not very high-level intense stuff, just some strength and conditioning likely type stuff. And yeah, just trying to get back in shape come football time. Also, a little piece of news, I don't think I mentioned it yet on the show. Packers will be playing week 1 in Brazil versus the Philadelphia Eagles. I've heard people talk negatively about this and different things. I don't think it's a big win, big loss, anything, but apparently the biggest fan base, NFL fan base in Brazil is a Packers fan base. So, hey, the Brazilian Packers fans will be happy to be able to go watch their Packers in their own country. That should be pretty amazing for them. And so I don't have a problem with it. I think it's great for the NFL, obviously, and great for Brazil, and maybe not fantastic for the Packers, but I don't think that's going to make that big of a difference. Maybe make them start slightly slower than they want to, but they'll be fine. They'll be ready to contend, going for it all. Going for that Super Bowl. Should be fun. All right, that's it for me today. Thanks for listening, everybody. Go Pack, go.